Now let's head upriver to visit with Theresa Stephenson at Make Your Mark.
I quilted as a teenager. Mom always had a quilt on in the living room during the winter. More often than not that I helped load it and unload it from the old-fashioned quilting frames because I didn't have the patience or the skill to do the hand quilting. I tried a couple of times and saw my mother taking it out when she thought I wasn't looking. But I always pieced, and even when the children were small, I pieced their quilt tops and handed them over to their grandmother to do the quilting for me. In probably late 1990s, when we were in Alberta, I started putting some tops together again and tacked them, a couple for Christmas presents, one that went to a charity, and was impressed by the fact that everybody thought they were works of art when I thought they were just regular. And then saw a sister-in-law with a quilting machine and thought this is the answer to me getting back to quilting, and watched her work for probably a year and a half off and on her machine. And at some point when we were getting ready to retire and move back to New Brunswick, decided that maybe I needed a quilting machine. After watching my sister-in-law work with her gamma Longarm, decided that maybe this was the one that I needed to go with, though I did some research into some of the smaller, lighter machines, more hobby machines, but knowing that I wanted to do this possibly as an income, decided that I needed the bigger machine. They were readily available through a dealer in Red Deer. I went down and spent an afternoon with them going through the different models and discussing size. They let me test drive one, and I really liked it. They tried to have me buy the computer too, but that would have doubled my cost, and I wanted something where I could work freehand. I wanted a substantial machine. And the fact that my sister-in-law had one also, and I had used hers a little bit, also swayed me towards this one. In fact, when we ordered this one, I went to her home and spent a long weekend with her with two small tops just to run hers, and she taught me everything she knew in that weekend. Didn't take long. But she, since, has also gone, she's got a second one now. She wore the first one out. Though it's still sitting in the shop, and she has customers come in and use it. But I really enjoy this machine. My only concern now, being this far away, is getting service and upkeep on a regular basis, though the manuals are set up pretty much so that if you're mechanically inclined, you could probably do it yourself. That's not always my inclination, but you know, you get braver and your learning curve goes way up when you invest in something like this. My husband teases me about the new car that sits on the porch. When my husband retired from the police department in Edmonton in 2007, I knew that I didn't want to go back to work per se. I was in retail at the time, so my option was to set this up as a quilting business, which was in the back of my mind when I bought the machine. So when we came home in 2007, I ran an ad in the paper, and inside the first week I had 4 quilt tops come through, and decided, well, this might actually work. This, I had been warned, this is still a hotbed of hand quilters in this area, but I still have enough work coming in to keep me busy as I want to be, and plus doing an odd farm market or a craft show and doing my own work. So it's worked out well for us since 2007. There are still people say, oh, I didn't know you did that I have known since 2007. But I make every effort to make sure everybody knows that I can do this. I enjoy working almost any pattern. I put the quilt on and let it talk to me. I can do some very structured stuff, but my favorite work is just doing the freehand, free flow, where if the fabric has a flower in it, I'll duplicate it in the quilting. If it just needs a vine and leaves, that's what I'll do. stitch in the ditch and doing the cross hatching is a little more of a challenge because it doesn't give me the freedom that I like to use, but it's possible. And a lot of times customers will come in with some very preconceived, very structured ideas as to how they want it quilted, and of course the customer's always right. But if they'll let me have my way with it, who knows what will happen. Besides working on all the new work, which is just so enjoyable to see different skill levels and different patterns and increasing my level of skill when working on somebody else's work, is that I have inherited quilts from my great-grandmother, from my grandmother, and from my mother. I, in fact, have her very first quilt that she ever made. But one of the things that I have used these quilts for is I look at them and say, oh, there's a tear here, or the binding is starting to go. So I have used some of them, not all of them, most of them are still original condition because you just don't mess with perfection as far as I'm concerned. But I had an old quilt that my mother made for me that was badly in need of repair, and used that to learn some skills as to repairing the old quilts. And I've done several, and it's a real joy to see them restored to some of their original beauty. One that my mother-in-law did for her son when he was married. The binding had come apart, and a couple of blocks had come apart. And she's long gone, but I had the privilege of being able to repair it, and so that the work is still all hers, and it's still very beautiful and still on display and still very usable as a result of just doing some repairs. So I really enjoy seeing the old ones and being able to restore them to their original beauty.
The technique was kind of strange, but I did the best I could. The teacher said my seams were somewhat odd. The blocks aren't straight, they are tense for sleeping 8. The only perfect quilts are made by God. You can quilt that out, that's what I've heard. You can quilt that out, that's the word. You're the professional, anything is possible. I know it's not perfect, but you can quilt that out. The left side is 7 inches longer than the right.